Murals from Delilah Studios was just revealed through opening night live with a taste of what's to come in the epic fantasy adventure. Joining me now to talk about Murals is AJ Grant Scrutton. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
AJ, I am so happy to have you here. Now, as we mentioned, we've got an epic fantasy adventure. Talk to me a bit about Murals. What kind of game is it? Tell me about the setting, the story, everything.
Yeah, sure. It's our kind of isometric action adventure game where you kind of hack and slash your way through twisted versions of fairy tales, folklore, and fables.
So it seems like there's a lot of inspirations from the game. Obviously, you guys have published a few different sort of styles of IPs before. Can you talk to me about the inspiration behind Murals specifically?
Yeah, definitely. For us, like, this is our big first original game in over a decade, and when we were kind of looking at like what did we want to tackle, like what was the stories we wanted to tell, we really started going back to like our childhoods and kind of thinking of those like fairy tales and fables we were told when we were kids. And as you're probably aware, a lot of the source material for that stuff's pretty dark. Like what you see in the beautiful animated films doesn't necessarily align with what the Brothers Grimm did. And we found that as a really interesting starting place. And so we kind of set this goal in mind of like, let's go back, let's read the old source material and then figure out how we can twist it in a Delilah way.
All right, and now where do these classic sort of reimaginings come into play? Can you talk to us about some of the classics that we see in the trailer and why you chose those stories in particular?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, picking the stories was really hard, like really hard. There is a big plethora to pick from. And so for us, we kind of wanted this combination of like titles we could make like familiar but fresh. So in the course of the trailer, we should actually show like little snippets of quite a few. So there's everything in there from Sleeping Beauty to Hansel and Gretel to Little Red Cap to Through the Looking Glass. So yeah, like it was really kind of like all the studio getting to call out what their favorites were and then deciding what were the ones we felt we could do the most justice to.
Were there any that you in particular were like, oh, we gotta throw this in, like this is my childhood story that I want to tell?
Hansel and Gretel for me was a big one. Like I loved that story and I just felt there was like a lot of room to play with, like how we could twist it and kind of make it really our own. That one really kind of struck out to me. But obviously like the classics like, you know, Sleeping Beauty and Rapunzel were really fun to play with as well.
All right, it seems like you gave us a lot in this first trailer, a lot of little tidbits. Were there any that weren't in the trailer that you can sort of tease right now without spoilers?
Oh, I mean, yeah, look, I'm very sensitive about like not revealing too much, even though I've already revealed a lot. But there are definitely some surprises later on. You know, when we were looking at this, we didn't just want to restrict ourselves to traditional fairy tales. So you might see some other stuff from the public domain kind of coming in later to give it a real twist.
Ooh, that's intriguing. Now, I do want to talk about gameplay, sort of the moment to moment. What can players expect there? There's some combat, there's a little bit of puzzles in there. Talk to me about the gameplay cycle.
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of our core pillars when we were making this was combat at its core. Like, we really built this experience from the ground up around being in combat for most of it. So, like, as you saw from the trailer there, it's kind of very, like, frenetic, reactive combat. You know, we wanted to make something that was accessible, pick up and play, but at the same time had a depth to it. You know, some of my favorite things, not that I'm supposed to have favorite things, but, like, I got quite greedy and I wanted the ability to dual wield melee and ranged weapons. So you'll see in the trailer, you're seamlessly using both your melee and your ranged weapons to kind of tackle the enemies. And then beyond combat, like you said, we have these interactions. So we have everything there from the gingerbread gang's puzzle you see in kind of Hansel and Gretel's in that trailer to braiding Rapunzel's hair to kind of be able to ascend the tower. So we have lots of these fun little moments to give the player respite from combat.
That's awesome. Now talk to me a little bit about the progression in the game. This isn't a roguelike or a roguelite as we sort of talked about a little bit offline, or Diablo, anything like that. This is sort of like a more linear storyline that you're progressing through. What changes as you go through the story, and like how do you keep rewarding players for being engaged?
Yeah, definitely. You know, whilst roguelikes and roguelites were definitely influences to us in kind of how we approach the moment to moment, this is, as you said, it is a linear story. It is an action adventure title start to finish. And over the course of the game, you're going to be unlocking new weapons. And what we like to talk about there is like the weapons aren't necessarily upgrades as much as they're almost style choices. Like you may get really used to using Dixie Cut, our sword from the south, and then you'll come across the Wolf Hammer and suddenly you want to try a whole new approach to combat. And on top of that, you're kind of improving your abilities as well. You know, the basics like your strength and HP, but everything to kind of canvas clear, which is like our arena-wide blast you see in the trailer.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is your first original title in a decade since Illusion Island, and on top of that, you're self-publishing. Talk to me about a little bit of the challenges in developing this title without, you know, having a publisher looming over your head.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, like it's our first real self-published title. So, you know, Delala's been going now for just over 14 years. And for the majority of that, we've had partners and, you know, big ones as well. I think for us, what the challenge was that we kind of set out from day one was we had to hold ourselves accountable. You know, when you have a publisher, for better or for worse, you're getting milestone feedback. You're getting that regular criticism of your work from outside of, you know, the entity that is the studio. And for us, we kind of almost had to take on this structure where, you know, the C-suite of Delala almost became the publisher. And so, and that is super difficult because two of us on the C-suite are the game director and the technical director of the project. So that was definitely a big challenge. But I can tell you, like, what has been really lovely for us in this experience is we've always been a quick reactive studio in terms of development, and we've suddenly had the freedom to do that with the IP and the publishing. You know, like, we suddenly think of an idea and we're like, okay, well, like, can we do this? And then suddenly a week later it happens, and like there's this thing that exists outside the game that promotes the game, and we were able to turn that around in a week. And you rightly so can't necessarily do that with a larger publisher because there's a lot of necessary red tape to get through. So we've definitely enjoyed the freedom, and we've definitely had to be pushing ourselves and holding ourselves accountable.
AJ, this is so exciting. Congratulations on the announcement. Is there anything you want to tell the fans of home that want to learn more about Murals?
Yeah, look, we're really excited for you all to see the game and to get your hands on the game. Whilst we're coming out in 2027, you can wishlist the title on Steam now and join our Discord where we will be doing regular updates, closed play tests, etc.
Is there any plan for a console release?
Right now, our main focus is Steam, so we're really like honed in on getting that feeling great and out there for the Steam players. But, you know, we're always having conversations about what the future could hold.
AJ, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure having you here. If you want to check out more about Murals, it's coming out in 2027, and you can find out more on Steam and their Discord. We got tons more Gamescom coming up, so don't go anywhere.